Paris, September the 30th, 2025. Autumn had just descended upon the city of light, not in a blaze of glorious color, but in a cold, unsettling silence. An overnight rain left a chilling glisten on the wet cobblestone streets, and the morning air carried the scent of damp earth, mingling with fresh coffee from just opened cafes. The streetlights still glowed dimly, their reflections shimmering in puddles, creating a haunting illusion, as if the city itself was holding its breath. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower stood tall, a golden, eternal symbol of Parisian romance, a stark contrast to the drama festering in its shadows. The city appeared to move as it always did. Tourists hurried back to their hotels, trams glided along their tracks with a soft hiss, and cafes began to fill with the hum of light conversation and the clinking of cups. But in one corner of the city, in the heart of Western Paris, inside a soaring glass tower, the morning began with a bitter silence, a silence forced by tragedy. The Hyatt Regency Paris Étoile, a magnificent 34-story hotel, its glass walls reflecting a cloudy, indifferent sky. The lobby, usually a vibrant chaos of rattling suitcases, a symphony of foreign accents, and the practiced smiles of receptionists, now felt alien and frozen. The heavy, measured steps of police officers echoed on the marble floor. Yellow tape, the universal symbol of a crime scene, was stretched across a courtyard hidden from the main street, and the rapid-fire flashes of reporters' cameras pierced the security cordon, hungry for a story. There, in a secluded corner of the courtyard, shielded from the public eye, lay a man's lifeless body. He was Nkosinathi Emmanuel Nathi Mthethwa, 58 years old. Just the day before, he was the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of South Africa to France, an official accustomed to glittering diplomatic receptions, to delivering measured rhetoric in international forums, to speaking in the calm, controlled tones of diplomacy. But that morning, all his titles, his positions, his power vanished. He was just a body, sprawled between concrete walls, leaving behind a void and a mystery that was rapidly escalating, threatening to rip apart the veil of diplomatic tranquility between two nations. This story, however, does not begin in Paris. It begins decades ago in South Africa, in the township of Claremont, Durban, where a young Nathi grew up in the shadow of apartheid. He lived in a brutal, rigid system, a world divided by racial lines, governed by discriminatory laws, and policed by a merciless armed force. He was raised in a world that gave him few choices but to fight back, and Nathi did not choose silence. From a young age, he plunged into activism. He joined the African National Congress, a party then deemed an enemy of the state. He learned to organize, to build dangerous underground resistance networks, to stage demonstrations, and to face apartheid police on the streets. In a world defined by risk and sacrifice, his name slowly grew, recognized for his courage and his unwavering loyalty to the cause. When apartheid crumbled in the early 1990s and Nelson Mandela walked free, a new world of hope opened up. In 1994, the first democratic elections were held, and Nathi stepped onto the national stage. He was elected as a member of parliament, part of the first generation of ANC politicians tasked with building a fragile new democracy. From his seat in the legislature, his career ascended with a speed that mirrored his devotion to the party. His powerful and unbreakable alliance with Jacob Zuma propelled him deeper into the heart of power. In 2009, he was entrusted with leading the Ministry of Police, a seat that placed him at the core of the nation's security apparatus, an institution desperate for reform. He held that post for 5 years, facing a vast spectrum of challenges, from street crime and mass protests to the highest levels of political intrigue. After that term, He shifted to seemingly softer roles. First, the Ministry of Arts and Culture, then the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture. These positions, though appearing calmer, kept him close to the center of state decisions, underscoring his status as a key figure within the ruling faction. But these posts cast long, indelible shadows. His name echoed again and again in the explosive investigations that shook the nation. The Zondo Commission, the massive judicial inquiry that exposed the machinery of the Zuma-era state capture, mentioned him repeatedly. The allegations were specific and damning. Abuse of the Crime Intelligence Secret Fund, interference in sensitive legal cases, and the alleged use of state money for private home renovations and personal vehicles. He fiercely denied every accusation, but the damage to his reputation was done. In the public's mind, his legacy was inextricably linked to an era now defined by corruption. And then there was the darker, more painful stain, the Marikana massacre in August 2012. When a miners' strike at a platinum mine turned into a bloodbath, 34 people were shot and killed by police. Mthethwa denied giving a direct order to shoot, but the public never forgot he was the Minister of Police at the time, the political head of the force that gunned down its own citizens. Every time his name was mentioned, the ghost of Marikana returned, an inescapable historical burden. In December 2023, President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him as South Africa's ambassador to France. Some saw it as an honor, a recognition of his long service. But the more cynical called it a polite exile, a way to remove him from an increasingly volatile domestic political scene. Whatever the interpretation, he left for Paris. His life appeared calmer, more structured. He attended lavish receptions, delivered speeches at UNESCO, represented his country at official events in the heart of Europe. But the past, like a shadow, never truly leaves, and that political shadow was closing in. 2 weeks before his death, his name surfaced again, not in Pretoria, but in the hearings of the Madlanga Commission, a body investigating political interference in the justice system. A high-ranking police officer, Lieutenant General Nalanla Mkhwanazi, testified that in 2011, while serving as police minister, Mthethwa had directly intervened to halt an investigation into the head of crime intelligence, who was accused of looting secret funds. The testimony was sharp, damning, and cornered him, placing Mthethwa on the verge of being officially summoned to testify. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in Paris. The tragedy began on the night of September 29, 2025. In Pretoria, his wife received a message later confirmed by the Paris prosecutor. It contained an apology. It was short, alarming, with words that alluded to an intention to end his own life. For a wife thousands of miles away, it was more than enough to sound the alarm. She reported it immediately, warning that her husband might be in grave danger. That night, Nathi was confirmed to have checked into the Hyatt Regency. He arrived alone. He entered a room on the 22nd floor. From there, his trail went cold, and the tragedy began. The next morning, his body was discovered in the hotel's quiet hidden courtyard. According to the Paris prosecutor's initial report, the window of his room appeared to have been forced open. A pair of scissors was found near the window. On the other hand, they noted no obvious signs of a struggle in the room. There was no trace of drugs in the preliminary examination. An autopsy and toxicology tests were scheduled. The official statement was brief, cold, and clinical, but it only deepened the mystery. If it was suicide, why did the window need to be forced with such effort? Aren't windows in high-rise hotels designed with robust anti-incident mechanisms? If he was alone, what were the scissors for? Did he have to fight a safety mechanism to end his life? Or were the scissors evidence of a defense or a setup? If that final message was genuine, did he write it willingly or under some unseen duress? The questions stacked up, hanging in the air, drawing a sharp line between the hypothesis of a private tragedy and the speculation of an organized crime. The official reaction was swift, but the steps taken were calculated. President Cyril Ramaphosa offered his condolences, calling Mthethwa a dedicated public servant. But the most decisive and most significant move came from the police. 5 senior SAPS officers, an elite and experienced investigative team, were immediately dispatched to Paris. Their mission was more than a formality. They were to oversee the investigation, to ensure this death was not simply stamped with the label of suicide. The deployment of this team was an explicit signal that Pretoria was not entirely convinced by the simple suicide narrative. They feared either damaging conspiracy theories or, worse, the possibility of foul play linked to South Africa's own political and intelligence networks. The move created a diplomatic dilemma. Could the public trust an investigation entangled with political interests? Would France be comfortable with a foreign team interfering? Yet this very collaboration opened the door to potentially greater transparency. In Pretoria, Mthethwa's family spoke out, their grief mixed with resolve. They dismissed the political speculation, calling the Commission's allegations a non-issue in the ambassador's daily life. But they demanded the investigation be transparent, swift, and dignified. At the same time, they were forced to endure their private sorrow being turned into a global spectacle, a brutal reality. The media took their positions. The French press highlighted the suspected suicide, citing the confirmed final message. The South African media was more cautious, constantly reminding the public of his long, complicated history. Zuma, state capture, Marikana. On social media, conspiracy theories ran wild. Some were convinced he was silenced because he knew too much about secret funds. Others pointed to foreign intelligence agents stealing sensitive documents. Still others linked his death to international crime syndicates he had investigated as police minister. The days following his death crawled by, thick with tense anticipation. The autopsy was not yet complete, caught in the web of French forensic procedures. Toxicology tests would take time to yield conclusive results. The prosecutor merely repeated the official line, "The investigation is ongoing, no conclusions have been reached." That information vacuum was filled with heated rumors and speculation. Who was the last person to see him alive? What did the hotel's CCTV footage capture? Was there a strange figure in the hallway of the 22nd floor? Was he truly alone? Or did someone else enter and exit undetected? Was that final message really written by him, free of coercion? And why could the window, designed to be securely locked, be forced open? These are not just technical details of an investigation. They are the keys to determining whether this tragedy was the private end of a man exhausted by the weight of his past, or the final knot in a political web far more sprawling and deadly. Paris moves on, seemingly undisturbed by the drama that unfolded in one of its glass towers. Tourists still pose on the Champ de Mars, seeking the perfect shot of the Eiffel Tower. Trams still glide on their tracks. Cafes still serve their customers. The city moves on as if it doesn't care. But on the 22nd floor of a hotel, a life stopped abruptly, taking with it secrets that may now be locked away forever. The world awaits a definitive answer. Did he really jump? Was there an undetected poison that incapacitated him before the fall? Will the CCTV reveal something shocking, turning the entire narrative on its head? Or will this all end with a simple conclusion, the suicide of a man worn down by his past, who met his end in the very place that was supposed to be his peaceful exile? The mystery of Nathi Mthethwa's death is a chilling reminder that behind the polished diplomatic suits, behind the grand ceremonies of state, there are human beings with long histories, riddled with wounds, accusations, and fatal political loyalties. Now, that history has come to a dead stop in the courtyard of a Paris hotel, and until the forensic reports officially speak, until the Joint Task Force announces its findings, this case remains a mystery. The mystery of the diplomat on the 22nd floor.